Welcome back to Egan Brooks' Psychology channel, and today we're going to talk about negative self-talk. Now, negative self-talk is something that pretty much all of us are going to be exposed to quite often daily. And it's a real struggle because it makes life feel heavier, harder. Life can be hard enough already, and we have this inner critic that's constantly telling us what to do, how to think, how to be. It's challenging. It's like we have this panel of judges in our brain telling us to do this and do that, and we've given power to different voices for different reasons, and often we can't identify what's driving this, what's driving the inner critic, and a lot of it is evolution, and we're constantly trying to just survive and please the people around us. That's heavily conditioned into us. So I think we all can relate in some way or another. So today I'm going to give you some tools, some frameworks to start breaking down these patterns, to start being able to fight back. So I don't think we should just sit there and accept our voice as the voice of reason. Often, and pretty much every time, that inner critic is just stemming from fear. It's trying to keep us safe in some twisted way that we can't comprehend right at this moment. So we need the tools to fight back. And today I'm going to give you a couple. And the first one is challenge, and it is just challenge the logic of the thought. Now, sometimes we have a single event happen. Let's say we're running late to work and we have this thought, oh my God, I'm going to be late, the time is running out. And then suddenly it is creating this emotion of fear and anxiety, which is driven by this thought, what is the boss going to think? Now that I'm late, what's that going to mean? And then suddenly it's created more negative, disempowering emotions, and the cycle continues. What are the other people going to think of me? Are they going to think I'm a bad employee? More anxiety, and then more negative thinking. Oh my God, I could get fired. And it can spiral out. And this plays out in all aspects of life: relationships, job, our health, our fitness, our family. And the reason we need to question the logic is often if we are able to just challenge the thought itself, we can stop the spiral. And sometimes it can be as simple as, what's the worst that can happen? And that could be getting fired. And if we can surrender and accept that if that happens, I'll deal with it. And that can be hard because for some people there is more fears below that, which is I need to provide for my family. My value is heavily tied to my work. So it can be really hard to surrender. But to be able to accept that whatever comes my way, I will deal with it as it happens, rather than suffering twice and creating this unnecessary cycle. Because you're so fearful of what they're going to think, you need them to validate you because you can't hold strong to the truth, which is there was traffic and things were out of my control and it happened and I'm sorry. And being able to own that is difficult. We would rather create a negative story in our head because it feels like we have control. That's what overthinking truly is. It's underfeeling in terms of we're unable to surrender and accept that if worse came and we got fired for whatever reason, we couldn't accept that truth because what would that say about our values, our fears? If we can lean into that fear and surrender to it, it also diminishes this thought. And it comes into acceptance and our ability to be spiritual and present with what is happening, rather than creating this story because it gives us this idea that we are able to control what is going to happen and be said, and we're shooting the first strike to ourselves because if we tell ourselves something bad's going to happen, then surely it should soften the blow. But if anything, it starts to affect the way we feel, and then suddenly we show up to work with that demeanor and that behavior, and then our body language energetically gives off this impression. And then suddenly they start receiving that we are in a certain behavioral state, and they start to feel that, and then they start to project, what's up with you? And then suddenly you have created this situation that conforms to the negative state that you have created yourself through the overthinking, rather than the acceptance and the surrender of, hey, it's okay, I know my truth, I knew that the traffic was late. Challenge the logic of the thought. If they fire me, what does that really say about them? Continue on. Then you get to the situation and you aren't showing up with that disempowering energy. And then suddenly you can be more you, be more present, energetic. And then you don't give off that vibe because these vibes are magnetic and they transmit to other people. So that's one of the first things. The second one is, how can I understand where the fear is coming from? So where is the fear coming from? And what that means is simply questioning what is driving that first thought and that first cycle of fear. Because let's say I'm going to be late. And if we start the question, okay, why does that matter to me? Well, because being punctual and doing that, I want to be a good character and I want to be on time. Okay. But why is that important to you for your job? Because the job's important to me and helps me provide for my family. Okay. Why is looking after your family such a priority to you? And then you can start to continue to play with that. And you say, because looking after my family, it is where I see myself as valuable. It's where I get a lot of my worth from, is providing, because it's the people I love and I care for. Okay. And then you can get to the bottom of that, which is basically you are taking your worth and value for being the provider, which means if this situation plays out to its worst, you would be stripped of who you are, because you've created your whole identity and worth around being able to provide and be that someone for someone else. So the problem here is suddenly you think it is about being late, when in actual fact it is being driven by this deep-seated fear of being good enough as a father and as a partner. And that is what is scary, rather than being late for work. So if we can question what is driving that, it can also help us understand more of ourselves, and then we can start to work on this. Why do we have these fears? Why do they keep surfacing? Because if we can actually come to acceptance and surrender of these fears, we can start to work on the deep-seated subconscious stuff, then these feelings and thoughts won't arise, because they are a byproduct of being driven by the deep-seated stuff. So if we can work on this, the surface level stuff will sort itself out. The next practical tool is, how can I change the story? Now, this one's a lot more simple. It is, how can I change the story? So suddenly we create a story. I'm going to be late. They're going to think I don't care about this job and I'm lazy. And then, oh my God, I could get fired. How can I change that story? I walk into work, they question why I'm late, and I say traffic was terrible, I'm sorry, I'll make sure I leave earlier next time. And then it could be as simple as that. Why am I wiring in a negative story to my life? Why can I not reframe it? And that, like I said, it comes from the place of fear. So we have to be courageous enough and bold enough to lean into a positive story. What is the best thing that can happen? We're constantly asking indirectly, what is the worst thing that can happen? But let's challenge that. Let's actually use our ability to think, to reframe it in a positive way. What's the best thing that can happen? And then also, if we tie that in with surrendering, if whatever happens, I'll be able to deal with it. If we can embrace that, then these thoughts and these feelings and these spirals and these feedback loops will get cut off at its knees. And that is essentially what mindset and frameworks and these tools are all for. It's to stop the external world being able to have such a strong hold on us internally. Enjoyed that episode? Thank you. Thank you for listening, and make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode.